You're listening to the Deadly Uncle Podcast,
a safe space for Deadly Uncle conversations.
Everybody, we have Adrian Goulet here on Season 2 of the Deadly Uncle Podcast. We're lucky to be here. This has been a wonderful season, Season 2. As you can see, we have a brand new setting in the background. We're wonderful and we're excited to be here, eh, Trent?
Well, I'm excited, even though I may not look it, but I am very excited.
He's very relaxed excited. He's called an uncle excited. That's what we call it. But we have a wonderful guest. You know, I've seen this man in the community. You know, I had the honor to even accompany him and his son with the drumming for Dallas Arcan at the I think it was the Stampede. I can't remember. Way back in the 1900s. No, just joking. It wasn't that long ago, but it was a few years ago, and we were lucky enough to back up our good brother. But just introduce yourself and tell us where you grew up.
Oh, well, yeah. My name's Adrian Goulet. I have a Cree name, Wapimaginapio, which is White Wolf Man. So I address myself that way, and then I also got a name from the Blackfoot community from Frank Turning Rope Sr., who gave me a name, Chuop Spoon it to be, which means genuine people helper. So I've been in Calgary a long time. Originally, I grew up in Quesnel, BC, and through time, I moved over here to Calgary. I've been here over 30 years now, so been here a long time. I grew up in a small town in the beginning, and I guess brought up as traditionally as possible through learning to harvesting berries and our meats and all kinds of things, growing a garden. So I kind of grew up as a young man like that. But then when I moved away, I moved into Calgary City. So I've been here for, like I said, a long time, and been working here and doing many different things here in the community. So
that's amazing. And so you said you're from the Cree tribe, or the Cree descent, and what's been your experience, learning some of the Blackfoot ways being here in McKinsess?
Oh, it's been one of the reasons I took up drumming is I loved the way they drummed. I just took a liking to the way they drummed. So I actually went to Pix and finished off my grade 12 there. So that's where I really started to learn to drum and started to have friends that were Blackfoot friends and started to powwow around and learn the drumming. So that's where I really started to learn a lot of their different traditions and ways, and then being with the community a lot and doing different things with them and supporting their things that they do in this community. I've learned a lot of different things, and we have similarities of practice, and we do things similar but not exactly the same, and you just learn to respect each other's ways, and it's pretty awesome.
Adrian, I just want to ask you a question. PIX, not everybody knows what that is. Can you fill in the viewers what PIX is?
For sure. It's Plains Indian Cultural Survival School. It was started in the 70s, I believe, and I went there in the early 80s. And PIX was a school that was developed to help Indigenous young people able to graduate. And one of the good things that they did is they had our academic classes in the morning, and then they had other subjects that you could take in the afternoon, could be beading, could be language, could be drumming, could be bush skills kind of things, and different traditional things you could learn in the afternoon. So it was very unique that way. There was no other school like that. So a lot of people that are very successful now came from that school.
Yeah, I've heard about the school before. I never went to high school here in Calgary. I moved here 19 after high school, but I did encounter people that went to that school. And growing up in Red Deer, which was a primarily Caucasian community, yeah, I kind of wish that was an option for me because, as Indigenous people growing up in the city, we grew so far away from our culture that's nice to see that there was a program for you and other people here in Mohkinstsis to actually get that connection to culture at such a young age while you're still in the city.
Yeah, I think we all shared the same type of thing, a lot of us students. We were, Indigenous young people who wanted to be somewhere where you felt comfortable. We ran their own powwows. We had like a graduation with traditions. You had lots of elders that would come and visit and all sorts of people that came to, mentorship and would come there to sort of expose us to other professionals.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of great trips. They used to do a culture camp every year, so we'd go out to the bush for 3 or 4 days and go camp out there. And at that time, we used to do some hunting. You can't do that anymore, but we used to hunt back then and go out and take our guns and go hunting, right?
Yeah.
And have lots of fun doing that. So it was a very unique school in its time, and gradually it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
right?
that's too bad.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Do you think that, growing up, because you're one of the lucky ones, we speak to a lot of guests in here that hadn't, had a chance to been exposed to their culture, well into their 30s, 40s even. And so do you think it was like a huge, a positive experience for you to have that growing up?
Yeah, because it helps keep you, I guess, grounded in a lot of ways. I think, we all go through ups and downs in our lives. And I think learning other ways of dealing with your traumas really helped me to get through a lot of things. Like, unfortunately, you go through a lot of things as a young person. And sometimes, you want to give up or you want to, not continue what you're doing. But when you go back to ceremony and you talk with elders and stuff, they're the ones that really help you get through that stuff. So it's good to be connected that way and feel safe to go through that route, and being able to have a connection, I guess, to elders in the community that willingly will help you just to get through that stuff. And it's it can be, I guess, scary if you're not familiar with that kind of place, going to ceremony or going to sweat lodge or going to pipe ceremonies. It can be quite daunting, I guess, if you're not used to it. So for me, I was used to that, so I was able to go back and continue getting help that way. So that was, and that's what I do in the community. I try to get young people comfortable of being able to go back to maybe their roots or their community or their elders or whoever that might be, to get help and start learning our practices again to help our lives.
So you said before we were on air that you work for the Aboriginal Friendship Center of Calgary.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the work you do in the community there? And are you ever working with people that are, struggling with addictions or things of that nature?
Yeah, so the Aboriginal Friendship Center was doing outreach, and they still do outreach, which means they go out and they help people that are unfortunately in the streets that are living there. And especially through COVID, we had to do a lot of outreach, meaning we went right out across the street because we're right off 3rd and 7th Ave.
Yeah,
so we're right downtown.
Right on the C train line there.
Right on the C train line. So, unfortunately, a lot of the people that are on the streets are around that area. So we went right out on the streets, and I would help pull the wagons of food and water and things, a little essential stuff that we would do and hand it out to people, trying to get them through those hard times and those kinds of things that happen. And we have other programs that the Friendship Center does, like a Smudge Vow is a program, and Smudge Vow is about helping people that are, I guess, were in the justice system, they're on probation, things like that, and try to get them, like I said, to have other options of healing, meaning to learn their old practices and the ways that their community used to thrive with. But now they don't have that connection, so we try to get them that connection. My job primarily right now is to help with big events, to help connect people to elders and other resources, not only just people, but also our programming. And so my name is Cultural Reconnection Coordinator, so that's sort of what I do a lot of. And I work with the community as a singer. I sing for ceremony. So if elders are having a ceremony in town, they need a singer, they'll ask me to come out and help sing songs.
I actually seen you. I go to a few community events as well in my capacity as working with Wind Speaker Media. And I just remembered I saw you at Heritage Park on June 21st.
Yep.
In the rain, because I was standing out there in the rain taking pictures, and I remember you sang a song at the opening ceremonies there.
Yeah, that's right. So that was for the Orange Shirt Day celebration.
That's what it was, yeah.
And what had happened is they asked me to help them, so I did. And part of my job was to bring in singers, but our singers didn't show up, and there was only one other guy. So I know how to sing. I was like, hey, man, we have to sing the opening song, flag song, actually. And he's like, okay. And I pulled him in, and we sang together, and we sang the flag song. So I was a bit of a safety, just in case things like that do happen. It's nice to be able to flip and just say, I can help. I'm here. I'm a singer. That's our job. We have to. We're asked to do it. You do it, right? So no problems.
That's awesome. And what does the drum mean to you?
The drum is something that has been, I guess, a gift in a way of how I look at it, because it's just something I love to do. So when you can do something you love to do, it's a real gift. So the drum helps me and has helped me all since I was a young person. Since the time I started to drum, since the time I started to learn songs, since the time up to now, still learning songs, learning how to make drums, showing other people how to make drums. The drum is just something that keeps me really grounded. That's really what it means to me.
You know, and a lot of people, for our listeners, and even our Indigenous listeners, don't realize that there's many different beats when it comes to the drum, many different styles. What's the difference between like a ceremonial song and a straight song, or something that you can sing in public?
I think the biggest realization with people is how technical it really is. People don't understand how technical it really is to be able to sing and drum like that. And like you said, there's many different types of beats. So not only are you singing all these different types of drum beats that are synced into the song, you also have to replay that song without a sheet of music. You have to draw it from your brain, from your memory, and you have to be able to hit those high and low tones there all through that time. So the music it takes a long time to be able to sing like that, right? And but you know, it can be learned. I believe anybody can sing and drum. It just takes some time. So I think the music is just all kinds of music. There's social music, right? That is just for social events. So the round dance will have some opening songs to it, but it'll have social songs mostly. There might be an honor song in there. There might be other kinds of songs in there. Those are just social songs, which means, for the most part, anybody can sing them. Nowadays, I would say that, a lot of our songs are out there, and I think how we sort of, I wouldn't say, we try to look after our songs. So if you really love a song and you know the guy who made the song, maybe you approach him and ask him with tobacco and gift to say, hey, I love your songs. Do you mind if I sing it? And most drummers are pretty good. They'll just say, yeah, go ahead. It's as long as you do that kind of protocol. And everybody has different types of protocols. So, and that's how you make friends. That's how drummers meet each other. They love each other's music. So that's what they do. Ceremonial singing is different. You have to be able to put in a lot of years and sort of know ceremonial singing in the sense you have to know the ceremony. So to learn a ceremony takes a long time. And to sing a song in ceremony takes a long time. So there's a difference there where we don't sing those publicly. Those are just for those ceremonies, and all ceremony have different protocol to them. So they have their own opening songs, they have their own protocol songs, they have their own ending songs. So, and that's just one. So you might have a ceremony that might have 15 songs to it. You just don't know until you learn. And I think that's probably one of the things with our young people, is that singing and drumming really helps your health and wellness. Like I said, drumming keeps me grounded. So it keeps me, and the music helps. As a musician, you know that music and the vibration and all that wonderful stuff keeps you really healthy, especially your brain. It keeps your brain really healthy. And I think when that was sort of taken away from us, we missed that so much. And now that we have it back, I always say, if you have a drum, hit it for 5-10 minutes a day. Just do that. And if you can't sing, that's all right. You'll learn to sing after a while. You can hum some tunes.
You've been working with the Aboriginal Friendship Center of Calgary. You're doing the cultural coordination, but you did say that you've taken part in outreach before, and you've been a helper in the community in that capacity as well. I've worked with people experiencing homelessness in Edmonton. I worked for a place called Homeward Trust for about 6 years, and I understand the level of stress that you can take on in that capacity, working with people that are really at some of the worst times in their life. And you talk about how music helps with your wellness. Are there any other tools that you have in your toolkit to help deal with that maybe you can share with the listeners, like, that are going through a hard time?
Yeah, I think, you as an individual, you can do things individually for yourself. So yeah, there's music is one, and I think the other one is you can just have smudge, like any kind of smudge, whether that's sweetgrass or sage or whatever kind of smudge at whatever community you're from. I think if you just take some simple smudge and just smudge once a day and just start your day like that, and I think that'll start to help you get over those barriers that you might be facing, traumas that you might be facing. And maybe for me, I think that would help somebody start to get a little bit more grounded, a little motivated. And smudge and substances don't mix. You don't mix the two. So hopefully once you start smudging and learning, then you can sort of push that other stuff away. You don't need it anymore. And you can start to use something that has helped us for thousands of years as a community. And then maybe that's when you start making connections to other things. And I think probably that helps to build a lot of things, and it helps to build some self-preservation. It helps to ground you. It helps to give you a little more motivation, repetition. That's why music is great. It's repetition, right? It just you learn as you repeat those things. And so I think starting there would be a good way to go. Just get some confidence too. That's a big one to learn. So how do you gain confidence? Well, you have to be successful in something. So simple smudge, you're going to be successful in doing that, and you just got to keep it going, and then eventually you can start breaking out a little bit and start getting over some of our barriers that we carry.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. And, I'm a guest in Mohkinstsis as well. Well, we're both guests here, being from Saskatchewan. But my experience here with the Blackfoot community has been very open-armed. I also received a Blackfoot name, Onski, which means singer, from James Medicine Crane. And, both my parents went to the residential school. We still had a residential school open in 1996. So, one of the things that had been taken away was that touch, just the physical touch. Like, I'll give you a little example. My Musham was a singer, and my mom used to sit in his lap, and he would sing her to sleep. And when she went to the residential school, she no longer knew how to sit in his lap after her first extent. So we lost that touch. But I noticed, like, going around the Blackfoot community, they're very much huggers, and they hug when they leave, they hug when they so they taught me that, and that was my experience. They were very open with the culture, their culture as well, because I hadn't been exposed to that. So what's your experience been with, like, being a guest in Mohkinstsis and culture?
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to see many different types of things since I've been here and working with different elders and communities. So being experienced to their ceremonial ways. When you develop and become relatives to somebody, then you're a relative. Or if you've been adopted by somebody, you're adopted. That's it. You're adopted for life, right? And so that that's part of being a relative is physical touch and hugging, and that's just part of it. So I could relate to sort of what you're saying, because I was very standoffish to people, and I'd be, "Whoa, buddy, don't be hugging me," kind of thing, right? But
why we got to touch?
Exactly, and that's just because of being brought up that very hard way.
Yeah,
like I was brought up very hard too, and there wasn't a lot of hugging. So seeing men hug, I was like, "Well, what's going on here?" Because you're not used to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But when you go to ceremony, so when I went to a ceremony when I was probably a late teen, and I seen a man praying, and he had lots of tears. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Because I never seen that before.
Yeah.
I never seen a grown man cry, like openly cry in front of a bunch of people as he's praying. So to me, it's like, whoa, that was something that really flipped my head a lot, just seeing that. So like I said, going to ceremony and seeing things that is okay to do, you know, and that's what ceremony is for. Ceremony is for help us to just to see that kind of love, because he's praying with such love. It's tears, right? He's praying with such commitment to what he's doing with those offerings that there's tears, and that's okay, right? It's fine to do that. That's how it should be. But a lot of us grew up with being so hard and being, you know, if you were getting any touching, it was usually a spanking or something. It wasn't hugging.
Or if you were crying in public, you were probably feeling shame.
Oh yeah, you were shamed. You were told you want something to cry about. I'll give you something to cry about.
You know, it's really funny because it's the opposite, right? The opposite of what we thought was strong. You know, and that's what an elder had told me too. It's easy to be tough. It's easy to go and beat people up and to swear and to try smile for a full month, no matter what happens to you in your life. Yeah. He said that's what I consider to be, you know, a warrior, or something that's somebody who's really strong. And you know, it's quite the opposite. That showing your feelings is actually a strength, not a weakness. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, we have emotions, right? And that we're supposed to be able to express. And just learning how to express those emotions respectfully is what we've lost, right? So I've had elders talk about our emotions and having anger with respect or having anger with disrespect. And it's like, whoa, I never thought about it that way at all, right? So, you know, that's what we miss, those kinds of teachings as you grow up. It's okay to get angry. It's part of your emotions, but just being able to control that's where we need to learn. So I've been out of control with my anger a few times, or more than a few times. I know that for sure. So, but as you learn and you go through ceremony, you learn that there's other ways to deal with things in a better way. That it's okay. Yeah, it's part of anger is there to help us actually to live. That you know, you've got to your boiling point, so you need to step away, or you need to go for a walk, or need to go to a ceremony, or you need to do something because you're at your wit's end. So you need to do something instead of going beyond that and being out of control. I guess would be part of that, right?
And it's a good way to look at that anger is actually a necessary emotion as well, because it lets you know that you're at that point where you need to walk away from something, right? Because a lot of us maybe don't learn that, and we push ourselves into more and more negative situations by just not recognizing that, this is my body telling me I need to get away from this situation for a bit, right? Like, we need to learn how to listen to our own bodies, I think, again.
Yeah. And it still happens today once in a while, right? You get cut off driving on Deerfoot. You're like, you got it. Okay, just relax. Keep driving. I'll get there. He cut me off. No big deal. I'll continue on. I'm number one. He just did that to me, so that's all good.
Well, I've been guilty of swearing at a few cars because I don't have a horn right now, so I can't even lay on the horn. So I'm like hitting my steering wheel. I'm going, nobody can hear me.
I would be honking at you if you can hear me.
Yeah. It's so true. And that's probably just we're just stressed out driving, and we got lots to do. And like you had mentioned, you just get to a point like, oh shit, I need a break. Yeah. Like I need to take some time. I didn't realize I was carrying so much right now. So it's good to know that.
You know, it seems like your career path has always been something with helping the community. Why is that important to you?
I think inherently people are just, sort of either born that way or their path just takes them that way. Because I often thought about why did I start? I started working in a group home when I was 24. And before that, I used to help. My mom used to take us to a community, and we used to dance with young kids and stuff, teaching them to dance and stuff when I was 12 years old. And so I was sort of always brought up teaching and helping people. And I think you just get used to doing that. So I started working in a group home when I was 24. But at that time too, I was young, and I didn't have parents anymore at that time. So I think it sort of helped me understand that there's always people need helping hand all the time. And through my singing and drumming, I just learned to always use it as something I would use through helping people. So I brought the drum to the group home, and we drummed with the kids, and they all loved it. And one of them became he was a diamond in the rough, became a really good singer and started traveling around all over the place with drum groups because he became that good. And so it's just one of those things where if I hadn't brought the drum, that would have never happened, right? He would have never been able to go sing and drum in his community because he was from Siksika, drum in his community unless I had done something like that. So sometimes you're also helping people find their gifts at the same time because a lot of our young people right now are struggling because they're not too sure which path to go or where to go. But at least if you do something, maybe that helps you to get onto something else. A lot of the kids just like to be around the drum. They just like it. I love it because I just love feeling that drum. I just love feeling that vibration. So a lot of them didn't actually sing. They would just sit in the room and just listen to it. Yeah. And that was it. And that was great. That was fine. That's all I wanted anyways, is just for them to actually experience it. So it's just something I've always done and continue to do today. That's just how it is for me, I guess.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think, like you said, people just kind of get led to that role of being helpers. Because, I grew up in a family, my parents weren't involved in helping anybody, but then when I was 19, they started taking foster kids, and they did that for 30 years.
Wow.
And did that they had a foster kid when my dad passed away this year still. Now my mom doesn't have foster kids anymore, but they did that. And when they moved back to Red Deer, they were the only Indigenous family in Red Deer taking foster kids. So almost every Indigenous kid that came through the system went through their home at one point or the other. And then that led my sister is the director of the Red Deer Native Friendship Society, so she's devoted her life to helping. I worked with people in the experiencing homelessness in Edmonton for a period of time, and I think once that becomes part of your family, your extended family, whatever, you just kind of take it on in a way. It's just becomes something that you do. You help your community because that's what you've always done. And actually, my cousin Kirby got my parents involved in foster care way back in the day when he had the group home, and that's how they started their journey into helping, was through him. And then his mother was a social worker, and that probably inspired him to get into it. So it's all these ripple effects that I think that are important for people to see, that you can take one step in one direction and you can change many people's lives, and you don't even know it's happening.
Yeah, I think inherently our community is just like that. I think we just try to help each other. Right? It's always been like that since contact. I mean, when they came to the shores, a lot of them were suffering. They didn't have very much. They were starving, and we instantaneously just helped them. That's just the way our community, and that's why we're the way we are. We're survivors because of how we are, as far as we're very giving and very kind. Like when you're talking about the Blackfoot community, I've met very kind people that will just adopt you and take you in and treat you like family. They're just very kind that way. Especially, when they're involved in ceremony and they do those types of things, that's inherently what you just do. You're just being kind. And that's what our ceremonies are about. They're about kindness.
Have you, you said that you were a dancer. Couple of questions. What style of dance did you dance? And then also, how did you choose your style?
Originally, when I was 12, I started out as a fancy dancer. So that was, because it was fast and it was fun, and it was, you got to dance and do all kinds of things. And then when I was in my early 20s, I switched over to grass dance. Okay. Then I started grass dancing. Then I did that for probably 15 years. And then after that, I switched over to chicken dance. And I did that for maybe 5 years, and then I just sort of gradually retired from dancing. So I haven't danced in a long time, and I'm thinking if I went out there, I'd probably after one song, I'd be huffing and puffing. Believe me. So.
There's now you got to switch over to traditional now.
Yeah,
eh?
traditional.
You
you
can say you did them all almost.
That's right. So I have been building that traditional outfit to just go out there and dance once in a while. So I'm halfway there, and I'm something I'm working on. And dancing, just like singing, dancing is very important. Dancing, there's a lot of things about dancing, and I always get a kick out of now they come up with all these things. New studies have found, but we always knew that, right? Because dancing's always been a part of who we were. We would dance all the time with our different ceremonies and different things we did. Dancing is very important, and it helps all kinds of good things for yourself and your body. And I watch some of the guys that I have retired, and they're still dancing, and they're older than me, and they're still dancing out there. And I go, damn, you guys are still doing it. But and you can tell it's helping them to be motivated and keep healthy to continue to do that stuff, right? Because dancing is not an easy thing to do. A weekend of powwow is excruciating to dance all weekend. It's tough.
Oh yeah, no, and just for the listeners out there, you're never too young and never too old to try dancing. Myself, I didn't start dancing till I was about 35 years old, grass dancing, and for me, because everybody's journey is different. People ask, well, how do you become a dancer? For me, like some families grow up in powwow families.
Yeah.
They get the outfits picked for them and that type of stuff. But for me, I went up to somebody who was making an outfit, which was my partner at the time, and I said, I'd like to dance. And she's like, well, what style? I said, I don't know. She said, well, I'll put on a song and start dancing. I said, what? I don't know how to dance.
Kurt's like this.
I start doing the moonwalk. No, just kidding. So I start dancing, and she's like, it looks like you're a grass dancer, so I'll make you an outfit. But everybody's journey is different. You don't have to be in a powwow family, and it's never too old, or it's never too late, to try something new, for sure.
No, it's true. It's you can dance anytime. Like it's just you don't have to have an outfit. You can go to a powwow and dance in intertribals. Intertribals meant for everybody to dance. You don't have to have an outfit. You can get out there and dance if you want. And if you're inspired to make an outfit, even better, right? Because there's lots of things, like you said, in your learning. There's lots of things you need to know, and you got to get moccasins, you got to get bells, you got to get materials, you got to get beadwork, you got to get a headdress or a roach or whatever the case may be to dance. So, and nowadays, some of these guys are wearing probably $10,000 to $20,000 worth of gear. They're wearing, and you just go, whoa.
In the hot sun.
Hot sun. And it's just amazing. And the artistry of some of these outfits, it just blows you away. Wow. You look at some of these women's capes that they bead, and it's like, oh, man, how long did that take you to do that? And somebody's like, I did this in a year. It's like, it took me 10 years to do something like that, right? And so that itself is a gift. Because some people just they just start making their outfit, and they're like, I've never made an outfit, and they just start making it, and it's just like, where did that come from? Yeah. So somewhere in their ancestry, it's there, right? It's just there. So that door's opened, and they started to make something pretty cool. And everybody's outfit is totally unique to them. They're the same, but they're not the same. Yeah. There's grass dancers. Every grass dancer's out's different. Mm-hmm. 35 grass dancers, all different. 45 traditional dancers, all different. And so it's pretty amazing.
That's a good way to, express their individuality, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's always a part of our healing, I think, which is dance and music. Growing up, we've seen a lot of our uncles, and we've seen a lot of our friends, especially when it comes to addiction, or being in addictions, that had that toxic masculinity, or and that's something that's been discussed a lot lately, especially in our women's healing journey is that toxic masculinity. But I think masculinity is needed in our community, but that positive masculinity. Did you have any role models growing up, that you could look up to that inspired you to be a good man?
Yeah, that's. I could say there's probably been a lot of role models that I grew up with, and I think when you're doing different things as you're growing up. So, for example, when I was in high school, I used to work in the mill. So, and this was in grade 11, grade 12, before I moved to Calgary to finish off my grade 12. When you go to a place like that, it's all men working in the mill, and so you're working alongside them, and they're very hard guys, right? They don't mess around when they're working, so you sort of get mentored when you do different things in different places. So you watch men work, and you're there at 8 in the morning, you're there till 4:30 till the bell goes off, you get half an hour for lunch, and you sort of learn to work like that. And then there's other things in your life. If you're going hunting with your relatives or your uncles, then you're learning from them how to hunt, how to harvest animals, how to walk in the bush, how to, take orders. They're going to tell you sit here and don't move until I come back, all those kinds of things. And if they get a kill, it's a kilometer in the bush and you're coming with us to haul it out. So you don't complain. You just go do it because you're learning to do some special stuff. You don't realize it at the time. You think, well, I don't really want to go trekking in 4 feet
I got a
of
sore
snow.
ankle.
But you couldn't complain, right? You just went and did it. So learning from men like that also that did those types of things. And then in ceremony, like I said, you would see certain men act a certain way during ceremony, and how they were very kind, and how male and female get how they treat each other in those situations, and with a lot of kindness. So I would say probably my greatest mentor would have been Albert Lightning, because he would have been the first person I went to ceremony with in the sweat lodge. And I was just a little boy, right? But just seeing how he was, and seeing how he did things, and seeing how he conducted people, and seeing the weight that he would carry. And I guess that helping piece comes from that too, because he was helping many people, because he was a medicine person.
Yeah.
So he knew a lot, and he did a lot of things. And that's when I started to learn how to put up teepees. That's when I started to learn how to build lodges. That's when I started to learn to clean up stuff and do all that kind of stuff. So I think you learn from as a man, you learn from many different men. And there's some men, I didn't agree with what they did, so I don't do what they do, right? So you sort of just think, well, okay, so I won't do that because I don't think that's a very good thing to do, right? And that's usually around parties and alcohol. I'm no saint. I've been in those places. I've been in places where it's got a little out of hand, we'll say, right? And you don't want to be like that. That's something that you don't want to have be part of your life anymore. So you push that aside, and you learn from the guys that you think, well, these are the guys that are doing stuff. These are the guys that are successful. Even though they're traditional men, they have jobs, they're successful, they have homes, they have vehicles, they have families. They're bringing their checks home for their families and living a good life. And that's usually what, most people want. You just want some happiness. You want a home. You want to do these things. This is how you do it. You got to work hard. You got to be consistent. You got to get through those hard times. You see men that go through hard times, and you see how they deal with it, right? And how they manage that. And you just learn to pay attention to those things, and be a part. So usually in those cases, when you're learning that way too, you become that leader also. People will always look to you to say, hey, can you help out with this? Because, you're pretty stable. And so that has happened to me in my family. So it's all good.
So Adrian, it sounds like you had a really good introduction to your culture from a very young age. And a lot of our brothers and sisters that are living out on the streets and struggling with addiction, they may have not had that connection, and maybe they want to learn about it, but they don't know how to go about it. They don't know how to get introduced to the culture. Can you offer any advice to people out there listening that might be wanting to get that connection to culture? What's the best way to, approach somebody to start learning?
It's just like dancing, right? You can learn to do things at any age, and just not. I think that our biggest barrier is ourselves. We tend to hold ourselves back. And if you just learn not to hold yourself back from approaching somebody that maybe be able to help. So we got a lot of social programming and great organizations like, Kirby has Muskanawa, and then there's a Friendship Center, and there's other organizations within Calgary that work with elders and things like that. So if you want to approach a place like a Muskanawa or a Friendship Center, then you would just go there and you would say, I really would like to start learning my traditional ways. I'm trying to make a step more positive for myself, and through that, then the journey begins to start learning from elders, and it doesn't necessarily mean this is going to be an old person. It just could be a young person like ourselves. I would consider myself still a young person, because a lot of our elders that have lots of knowledge are up there farther than me, and that should be our job. They shouldn't be dealing with that at that level. Yeah. This is our job to do this, so we should be the ones to help these people to start learning to smudge and being comfortable doing that. I think if you really, really want to do something, you'll find a way. Right? Yeah. Anytime any of us wanted to really do something, we found a way. If you really want to learn to get back to your traditional ways, you'll find a way. It'll happen. But you really got to start thinking that way. You really got to push yourself a little bit. We've all been there when we really, really wanted something. We went for it and we got it. And anybody can do that. Yeah. I know sometimes, and I haven't suffered as much as some of these people I've worked with, but I didn't grow up with tons of money in my pocket. We really had to work hard, right? And I value my teachings of never giving up. I value my teachings of being able to do my prayers myself to get through things. And I think the biggest barrier, like I said, is probably ourselves, and we just got to push ourselves a little bit and continue on, and it will happen. I ultimately believe it will. You just got to want to do it, and from that point, it's not going to be easy. There's always going to be things pulling you back. There's always going to be barriers again, and you just get through them. But eventually, those will get less and less, and those walls are getting smaller and smaller, and you'll start to. It's a lot of consistency, right? You have to develop. So I think a lot of our people that are in places where they're having a hard time is that consistency is not there anymore, and they got to start developing it, right? So like I said, simply smudging every day starts to develop some consistency. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much, for being on the podcast here, Adrian. Like, we've learned a lot here, about our culture, and as we say, we're just starting to learn. And my final question or that I want to talk to you about is, in Edmonton, we actually have a place at the fort. It's called Fort Edmonton, where we have a spot to be able to do our ceremonies right inside the city. To a spot to be able to do our sweats, to be able to do indoor, outdoor, and then all night ceremonies as well. Do you think that it's important, because you grew up with the, being in the culture, for us to have a place in every major city across Turtle Island, Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, where we have a place to pray inside the city, not out on our reserves, but right inside the cities?
I think what you're referring to, how I would look at it is, I think we need a place where we can feel comfortable coming and seeing elders. I think we need a place where we could come and get advice. I think we need a place where we could learn how to do smudging. We can learn how to do these things. The way I look at things is that you can do prayers pretty much anywhere, right? You can do your own smudging wherever you are. I think what we really need is just that resource place where we can do those things. If we can do a place where we can have a lot of places now, you have smudge rooms and they have faith rooms and things like that where you can go to do smudging and stuff. So things are slowly changing with our community as far as them understanding what our needs are as far as Indigenous people, where that's our practice to do those things when we are having a big meeting about something very important and to create safety there for us. And I think what I see is what you're talking about is somewhere where we can get those kinds of resources and feel comfortable with it, right? So, and if there's a place of prayer where you can have somebody sort of help with that, being our elders or the elders from this community, or ceremony. I think a lot of people are now familiar with the sweat lodge ceremony. A lot of people, all kinds of people go to them now. It's not if you go and talk to people about sweat lodges, a lot of people, I've been to a sweat lodge, they'll put up their hand, so they sort of understand it, and they understand what we're doing. I work with a lady. Her name's Carrie Moore. She's a psychotherapist, and she talks about we all come from earth-based culture. So if we were to come together, and I see a shift of us, we've kind of went way too far this way, and we're not living with our spirit too much anymore, and so we've shifted a lot one way. And what we need to do is sort of shift back and have some balance there. And I think with the community of Calgary understanding that, what of our needs as Indigenous people, and exactly what you talked about, we need a safe place to go where we can do these types of things and feel safe. And then eventually, as we grow and we gather our own resources individually, then we can do our stuff somewhere else with land, with our own places. It's hard to put a sweat lodge in an apartment building, right?
Yeah.
It's
yeah, exactly. And it's nice.
I've got a portable sauna in my apartment building.
He does too. It's for weight loss, but hey, you could go sweat in there, right, if you wanted to. But it's nice to see, like Edmonton, and then even Red Deer too. They're actually making a piece of land where we can have this, and it's for people who don't have a place to go. It's for people who don't have those connections, like let's say if you're in Calgary, you don't have those connections to Satina or to Morley or to Siksika, but to have a space that's right in the major cities, I think is so innovative, and I think it's about time. And if it's run correctly and safely, I think it's a wonderful thing, because if you look at the history of Canada, it was 1855 when Montreal had its first place, its first church was built in 1855 here in Canada. So since that time, there's been a place in every major city for non-Indigenous people to pray. So I think it's about time for us to have a space,
Yeah, it's probably one of those things where what would it really look like, right?
Yeah.
We don't have sort of.
We don't know.
It's because our church is nature, right?
Yeah.
It's just it's the earth, it's the trees, it's the grass, it's all those things. That's our church. But we have all kinds of faith buildings within Calgary, all kinds, and but we don't really have one as an Indigenous community of our own to say this is where Indigenous people go to do prayers or to do ceremony, a safe place, right? We don't have that, so that's exactly what we need. And like I said, it's to me it's an introduction to learning your ways. Then from there you can take those foundational things that you've learned, and then you can maybe now you've got resources to drive out and do some other things out somewhere else with other communities, whether you're from the east or the west or the north or the south. Then you go back to your own communities and do some of those cultural activities with nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even a spot for where we could have our wakes,
Yeah.
Like for people who, like my cousin Diane, she grew up here. All of her family was here. you know, but we had to ship her body back home.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people couldn't come, you know, to the funeral. A lot of her friends and family. So it would have been nice to have a space here in Calgary to have a wake that's Indigenous, you know, for our Indigenous people that, you know, pass away in cities where their home is far away. And this is their family here now, you know, along with their family back at home.
Or even our houseless community, you know, people that have been living on the streets here forever. Their whole world is here, everybody they know. But when they pass on, they often get shipped home to home communities that they don't feel connected to anymore, right? Like,
yeah, it's an interesting thing to talk about, just because there's so many things there to consider.
yeah,
Being that, well, has been their home forever, but they're actually originally from, could be Winnipeg or Ottawa, for example,
Yeah.
way over there, and the body goes shipped over there because there's plots there for them, right?
Yeah.
But I think people get around that now, where they do these celebrations.
Celebration of life.
Yeah.
Celebration life.
visuals,
So,
yeah.
like you said, to have a place where you could go to have those celebrations of life, to make sure that the people in this area acknowledge and do whatever needs to be done is for that person in this area, and to have that place designed that way. Like you said, it's designed to do those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
those types of things are there, where there's a kitchen, you know, your stage or whatever you need, or those kinds of things are there for you to utilize as a community. That would be awesome.
Right on.
Well, Adrian, thank you for sharing your time with us today. Thank you for the work you do in the community. You're definitely
a deadly uncle.
Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us
you.
today.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody.
You're listening to the Deadly Uncle Podcast.
A safe space for Deadly Uncle conversations. Coming up on the Deadly Uncle podcast.
What my work will be, well, it's what the government is missing right now. What ISC, Indian Affairs, they used to be called, used to be in charge, well, they are in charge of all the nation's funding for water, right? But the one thing that they're missing is the engagement at the nation level. You got to go to the nations and visit and see what they have, see what their actual needs are. And this is what I'm doing now. I'm getting out there, meeting the chiefs, the councils, the workers, and then coming back and reporting and try to come up with a plan on how we're going to fix this, right? And I think that's the main thing that's missing, is that engagement, real engagement, right?